Welcome back to Takedown MMA. Evan Hurts on the Fight Magazine, Albert Gonzalez of Grinders Fitness. We're going to spin this segment talking a little bit about the women's strawweight division and what Jessica Andrade did last night to Tecia Torres. I like the matchup going in. I think we had discussed it a little bit outside a couple weeks ago off of camera, and I think you were probably right. It was just too much. Andrade her grappling is next level at that division. We've seen her do it now to multiple people, including Claudia Gadelha, who is no joke on the ground herself. So what were your first reactions, Coach?
Honestly, it kind of went down the way I thought it was. Tecia Torres is just a tough girl. So tough. Even the fact that she hurt Andrade in the first, kind of had you questioning, whoa, what are we going to see tonight? But Andrade, man, that girl is an animal. She's an animal. Like, to manhandle Claudia Gadelha the way she did when they fought, you just knew that she was going to kind of have probably the same kind of game plan coming into this one. And honestly, name me a 115er, a 115 female that's as strong as Jessica Andrade is. I can't think of one.
She ragdolls.
I really can't.
She literally ragdolls. For a lack of a better term, these other ladies, and she sent Tecia skyward a couple times last night. And it's not only that, she's committed to doing work on the ground too. Once she gets them there, she's not just happy with getting the takedown. She's looking to do damage.
Well, and even to give further credit to Tecia, the fact that she hurt her in the first. I mean, we've seen Jessica Andrade take full-on head kicks from Joanna. We'll call her Joanna, former champion.
Yeah.
We've seen her take head kicks in that fight. What was it, 3 or 4 times she got kicked in the head, like full-on shin to the head, and just kept walking forward like the Terminator. So for Tecia to have any sort of effectiveness and actually injure her, or rock her a little bit, kudos to her for that. But man, she is going to be a tough matchup for anyone. And this kind of goes into things where you think about styles make fights too, because Joanna beats Andrade. How do you think Andrade does against somebody like Rose? Styles.
Hopefully we get to see it.
I feel like Andrade. Obviously I'm pulling for Rose and I'm behind Rose, but you kind of feel like Andrade is a better matchup with Rose than she is with Joanna. You know what I'm saying? So, I feel like style-wise, I feel like fighting Rose would be an easier fight. Not saying she would beat Rose, but saying it would be an easier fight than fighting somebody like Joanna.
All right, because I do halfway agree with that, but I think in the whole division, I think that she would have to be most aware of Rose once it hit the ground as well, because Rose is really tricky. Her jiu-jitsu is really tricky, and she's super sneaky.
Absolutely.
So I think out of everyone in that 115 division, Andrade, she's going to have to, if that fight, eventually it's going to happen. Because I think Andrade gets the next one. She's next up. I mean, I don't know who else you're going to put her against to hold her over. She definitely has re-earned another title shot.
For sure.
Whether that be against, if Joanna can right her wrong against Rose, or if it's against Rose, either way, at some point her and Rose will fight. And I think she's going to have to maybe think twice for the first time in her career about just, because I think she just takes down and doesn't really have to think. She knows what she's going to do once it's on the ground. With Rose, you got to be careful.
Well, that's the thing with Rose, is she definitely has more ways to finish you than honestly, than pretty much anybody in that division. She's got, absolutely, she can finish you, she'll pull off a flying armbar, for God's sake. We saw her do it in Invicta,
That's awesome.
Once it hits the ground, obviously she does have an outstanding ground game. And hey man, when you get to work with people the likes of Tony Basil over at 303 Training Center, his ground game is outstanding, and the way he breaks everything down for her, you could just see leaps and bounds. You see it with her, you see it with J.J. Aldrich. They're just improving every day. And then to have Trevor Whitman behind you working your stand-up, Pat Barry, you've got the best of all worlds in there. So there's no way you go into a fight not being well-rounded.
Champion for a reason, right?
Exactly. So, as far as that goes, Rose does have more ways to finish you, but Andrade is dangerous for every single girl in that division.
I think that's a exciting fight to look forward to because, like I said, either way, whether it be, if Rose if she loses her title to Joanna and she has to work her way back, I think that's a fight that the UFC wants to make, in a division that now with the 125 division opening up, it's thinned out the divisions a little bit.
It's thinned out to 35, it's thinned out to 15.
So it's a good thing. I'm glad they did it, but when you do that, when you open things up like that, we have to expect it to be, your stable's going to be a little bit smaller. So that fight has to be made eventually. You have Claudia Gadelha, being in kind of a weird place with 2 losses to Joanna. You got to think that she's pulling for Rose to win, because her path back to the title depends on Joanna not being there.
Right.
Because how do you justify a third fight? It's
well, honestly, Claudia's in a bad spot. She's kind of like Rich Franklin back when he was out. Yeah. So Rich Franklin could have been the king of that division for a while. He was so talented. He fought hard. He was good everywhere. But he kept running into Anderson Silva knees.
Yeah.
Anderson, he just couldn't get past Anderson Silva, Even if you think about like Tito Ortiz, he just couldn't get past Chuck Liddell. And I feel like Claudia's kind of in that same spot. Maybe even Jose Aldo, if you think about him and McGregor, or
I would say
even Holloway.
Yeah, Holloway's done it.
Absolutely.
More, efficiently. John Jones, DC would be the big one.
It doesn't matter who you are. There's always somebody who's going to have your number. Just if you fight enough, I feel like there's always an exception to the rule. You always get if you go to boxing, Floyd Mayweather who's undefeated, whatever. But for the most part, everybody's got somebody who just doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. They're just going to give you problems. They're just style wise, it's going to give you problems. And I feel like Claudia's in that position right now. So it kind of sucks to be her, but. For sure, she needs Rose to come out.
She first has to get by Carla Esparza. I don't like that matchup for Carla because Carla is a wrestler, and I just think that Gadelha's ground game is just on a different level than hers, and she's got
I like both girls. I really do.
I just don't like the matchup.
I think Claudia Gadelha is she's just a step above everywhere. Her stand up, her wrestling, her ground. I think she's just a little bit higher than Carla is, and they've tried to set this fight up. This will be the third time, right? So, let's just keep our fingers crossed that we finally get this matchup.
What's that tell you, really, to kind of circle back around about Jessica Andrade? Because what she did to Claudia was, she did what she wanted to do and really, put a beat down.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't see that happening at all.
Me either. I thought it was going to be interesting, but she treated it like she had another level. Like, there was another level to it. And it was really surprising, but it opened my eyes to what Andrade is capable of.
Right.
And it kind of opened my eyes to how much Joanna's ground game had improved. Because she was able, she left that fight with a big old, knot on her head. But she was able to figure out how to get up on occasion and not take the punishments that some of these other girls have taken.
Well, that's going to be the key for Joanna moving forward is how much does she adapt and how much does she continue to grow as a fighter, And especially so now that the 125 division is here, you've got 115ers moving up, you've got 135ers moving down. So if Joanna loses to Rose again, I can almost guarantee you she's going to go to 125.
Got it, because that title path.
But then the problem you run into there is Valentina Shevchenko is going to end up with that title, okay? And now, so Joanna's in another situation where now there's another girl who's got your number because Valentina's beat her, 3 times already in Muay Thai. So now that's another issue. So it's really going to depend on how much Joanna grows as a fighter. She's going to have to, I think honestly, she's going to have to throw some wrestling in there. She's going to have to get some groundwork in there. She's going to have to round it out in order to be able to compete with these girls, especially moving up weight class where these girls are going to be bigger.
And she's going to have to reinvent a little bit of her striking as well going forward against Rose in this rematch, because we saw that, Rose says she has that kind of Dutch kickboxing style figured out. We'll see about the adjustments. We'll see about the entirety of the 115 division as it starts to kind of heat up, and we got a few contenders and some future matchups that can be made. That's going to do it for segment 2. Catch us on ibtv.us, Roku TV. It's been Takedown MMA. Evan Herzog, Albert Gonzalez.